So we may need to talk about C6 Bennett. I think, assuming no changes to Cloud Retainer, C6 Bennett might actually become one of the best constellations in the game. Because not only does it enable significantly better combos for characters like Gaming and Diluc, it also just completely fucking enables any other unit to be played with Cloud Retainer in that way. Is Gaming a decent unit? Kinda, yeah. Here's the thing about Gaming, okay? He is truly a unit of all time. Alright? Without C6 Bennett, if he is not C6, so if he's C0 and you don't have C6 Bennett, he's not very good. Like, he's yeah, you know? If he is C6, or if you do have C6 Bennett, he's pretty good. If you have C6 Bennett and he's C0, he's like alright. If he's C6 and you don't have C6 Bennett, he's pretty alright. If he's C6 and you have C6 Bennett, he's pretty good. I am still not convinced about his performance at C0. Does Zori exist before C6? Yeah, man. That's my biggest issue with Gaming, man. Like, his teams at C0 are either reliant on C6 Bennett or the sort of assumptions that I really don't feel comfortable with. Like, imagine if you missed, if you had to do N2CD on Hu Tao, right? Or N2CJ, sorry. And if you miss one, you lose your Pyro Infusion. Is it incredibly difficult to do? No. But you get punished a lot for fucking up once. And that's effectively what happens in the Gaming Kazuha teams. Which is, you end up in a situation where you have to swap into Kazuha exactly at the right moment.
With the wind.
And use his E instantly. With a bit of ping, it just stops working. If you get hit, it stops working. If you're just a little bit slow, it stops working. And if you don't get your Pyro Swirl, then the teams are significantly worse. Right? The whole reason you have Kazuha in the team is so that you can get that swirl. And because, like, those are just not the sort of teams where I feel really comfortable recommending them. It's like, yes, it is a team that you can do if you really want Gaming, but, like, is it the team I'm going to expect people to play? And off of which I'll make my assumptions and I'll draw my conclusions on how strong he is? No. No, it is not. Is it tighter than a Hytham swap deck? Yes, it is. I think it is. Right, so that's with that's for like the Kazuha teams, right? And then you have the Xianyun teams where you just forego the Pyro Swirl altogether. And in those teams, well, if you don't have Bennett C6, they're not, or Gaming C6, like a low constellation Gaming without Bennett C6. It's kind of bad, cause like Blood is just sitting there with underwhelming as fuck damage, waiting for his E to come back. You know. Now, is it completely terrible? No. But it's also not all that strong. And then you run into all the gameplay issues that a character like Gaming is gonna have. So you guys may not have noticed this from the footage we got, but his E makes him go forward into an enemy. After which, he goes directly up. He then has to plunge. Because if you glide, you lose the empowered plunge. So you have to plunge, you can't reposition. Which means, this is Bennett Burst. This is the enemy.
Toodaloo.
After you've used Bennett Burst, because Bennett Burst staggers enemies backwards. What you have to do, you run behind him before you use E. Because otherwise, you go here, you jump up, down, You plunge him, he gets staggered here. You do it again, and then he gets staggered too far away for your Bennett, or for you to be able to get your plunge while still being inside Bennett's circle. So, you have to go behind him. Okay. And then, go up and go down. Well, bro got staggered here. Now, if you do it again, he's gonna get staggered here, and then you're fucked for the same reason. So you have to go here to do it. And then you go up, and you go down. And you get staggered back here. Enemies that are vulnerable to stagger, because you can't just jump in place, right? Because he is at the mercy of auto-targeting. Because he doesn't E go up, his E goes forward. Until it hits something, then you go up, right? It makes it so that it's going to be a lot harder to reliably stay in Bennett Burst than if you were to use a character like Xiao. And even with Xiao, staying in Bennett Burst is still a consideration that is annoying enough for most Xiao mains that they are very glad to be free from Bennett, potentially with Cloud Retainer, right? It is going to be a lot worse than that. Then, you have the fact that, well, Blood needs to generate 60 energy. And he does it 2 particles at a time. A 5E rotation is realistically achievable. But if you miss one of those E's because the enemy died, or anything similar to that, you get 1 less set of particles. You get 2 instead of 3. And then you have to wait the full 6 seconds for your E, instead of just getting it 2 seconds later. Because your burst expires. All of this to say, right? The way that his kit works is going to make it very easy for a minor gameplay caveats, I guess, to compound or like together and just make your experience so much worse and make his practical use, it makes it so much harder to get to the theoretical maximum of what he can do. And then that paired with the fact that with realistic assumptions, he's not looking that strong unless he has constellations. That leaves me with a very pessimistic outlook on him. Will he be better than Ning? Yeah, he's gonna be better than Ning. Basically, you can think of him as a bad good unit, right? He's not a bad unit, and he's better than the good bad units, like Dory, that are like bad units, but that like have use cases where they're good and like well, blah blah blah. But he's also worse than the good units, you know? And then, if you do have C6 Bennett, his best team is better if you replace him for Singto and just fucking use Bennett as a carry instead. That's not that bad for a 4-star. Yes and no. Like, I am glad that he is going to be strong enough to clear Abyss. Because I think his animations look really fun. I think like he's just going to be a blast to play for the first like week. I think it'll get old because of those gameplay issues I mentioned that are just going to make the experience feel bitter a little bit. Anyways, I've seen a lot of people be optimistic about him, and I'm not there with them. I think that people want to be optimistic about him because it's nice when 4-stars are good. But just because a unit is better than Ning doesn't mean they'll be all that great. That being said though, again, right? If you do have C6 Bennett, He does have an actual decent team. If you actually get constellations on him, he can actually perform fairly well. And if you are able to do the scuffed combos with Kazuha, that is also something really nice that he's got going for him. Like, he does have nice things. He just also has a lot of caveats and asterisks. Have you pre-farmed Gumming? No. I'll build him eventually, but I'm not that excited. The animations are pretty, but meh. I don't know, man. Am I gonna choose him in Lantern Right? That's a good question. I might, yeah. Because it's basically between him and her, right? Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go for Xianyun. So maybe I get, like, if he's on her banner, maybe I get some on the way and then it'll change my decision. But, like, I'm not getting Yao Yao, because Omega Lol, Yao Yao's constellations. That's funny. Gaming's numbers, if everything goes right, they're fine. Not very good, just passable. He like, here's what it boils down to, okay? He's balanced around his slow pyro application. And with slow pyro application, you don't need fast hydro application. Which means you don't need double hydro or Singso or even Yelan to vape him. You can vape him with Farina only. The thing is, Farina fucking sucks at letting you get pyro swirls. She really fucking sucks at it. Getting your pyro swirls with Farina is not fun. Shit works out wrong very, very often. It's very easy to fuck up the timing. And if you fuck up the timing, then he's not very good. Now you can use Xianyun, which lets you not have to care about getting the timing because, well, you fucking can't with her, basically. And she gives him higher damage without it than Kazuha would give him without it, right? Because she's giving you damage through something that isn't just the swirl itself. And so that's nice. That's Pog, that's cool. But in those teams, at C0, he's not very strong. Unless you have Bennett C6. And if you have Bennett C6, you know who's significantly stronger than he is? Bennett. Just on-field your Bennett and it'll be much, much better. You get to run one more support. You can run basically any support and it'll be better. Like, there are very much situations where he's good. Don't get me wrong. I think at C6, he's actually pretty good. And I think if you are actually reliably getting your Power Sword with Kazuha, even at C0, he's, like, passable. But if you're not, you're gonna be really disappointed when you start playing. That being said, even though Bennett would be better, Bennett is better because Bennett might just be the best fucking carry in the game for Xianyun, right? It's between him and Hu Tao at this point. And I'm leaning towards him. And so, him being a downgrade to that doesn't mean he's bad. Right? If you have C6 Bennett and C0 Gaming, and you play, you know, on-field Gaming with Xianyun, right? Weaving in plunge attacks between your E's, he's alright. Yeah, one thing that I think a lot of people are somewhat overlooking is his ER requirements. Right? When you're playing him with Bennett, usually, I mean, if you're trying to get 5 E's on him, you're gonna struggle to be able to fit 2 Bennett E's, right? Or 2 Kazuha E's even. Or, so it's probably just one of each, right? So with Kazuha, right, your requirements would look something like this, right? Best case scenario, you actually do manage to get all 5 E's, so you get 6 particles, and then 2.25 from Bennett.
Are made for transferring commodities back and forth. And those
I guess you could do a Bennett hold E.
just stay a while. So it is where many things
Get 3.
7.
And Farina, 8. So maybe he gets 6. Misses 2. Kazuha, 3. You have to do a tap. You can't do a hold. Is your requirements are like 165?
Next, if you'd like to.
If you manage to weave in a second Kazuha E, which should be doable with the right rotation. 157, but that's still, like, that's not 0. That's a lot of ER you have to get. It does go down a bit. You go 5 Kazuha, right? And 5 Farina, but then that's 2 5 swords you need. I don't know. And, like, you also have to keep in mind, it is fairly likely, with enemy HP breakpoints, that you might have to wait a little bit for one of your E's. And then, you might get your particle ICD might not work out well
Don't rush.
if you only get 4 E's instead of 5. And it's very possible you only get 4 particles instead of 6. And that increases your requirements a lot. Well, weapon for Plunge Bennett? You know, I actually wonder, what do you guys think? What do you guys think is his best 4-star option?
Amen.
And his best weapon? And by how much? And Ali Flash doesn't count. Ali Flash is not a real weapon. No one has it. Don't even fucking try. Like, no. So, his best free-to-play option is actually a tie between the Umbrella and the Finale of the Deep. Umbrella is slightly better because it's unconditional, whereas Finale of the Deep, on your first rotation, you won't, like, it'll take a little bit to proc because you're not going to be low HP by the time you heal. But Finale of the Deep is actually about as good. Because it just gives a lot of stats.
Wine tastes the same as I remember.
This Finale, I've never seen it. It's the Fountain Craftable.
Those who share the memory.
Is an Iron Sting same as Umbrella? It's a little bit lower DPS in single target. A bit higher in AoE. What's Umbrella? It's the Tokabo Shigure. And it looks nice, so I'm probably going to be using that. How much of an increase do you think it is between this and Miss Splitter? Like, how much of an increase do you think Miss Splitter is? Okay, I shouldn't have asked. You guys are dumb. You guys are dumb. Do you have any idea how much a 5-star weapon is usually? You probably don't. You're corned as shit. So, for reference, on Ayaka, it is anywhere between 120 to 130% better. Usually closer to the 130 than an R1 Amenoma. No, 130. Yeah, it's 30% better, not 130% better. But yeah. What's this website? Is the Kutsing Main's website. 25 to 30. 20. It's about 20%. 40%, 45, yeah, no. It's about 20% better.